Stories that are both a delight to read and to hear. The Immovable Rock. The Grim Farm is nestled in a pleasant valley, where the farms are no different from many. The horses whinny, pigs grunt, and cows moo. Life is simple there, and sometimes the people are too. The farmers there are of a different mind. Their doors are often unlocked, and hearts are so kind. They are neighborly and willing to help each other, and all the farmers act just like close brothers. They really do try, but when these farmers work together, it never seems to go well. Sometimes there's even an interesting story to tell. On one particular day, everything just didn't go their way. On the farms, everybody wakes up early when the birds begin their singing flurry, and when crops were still without bloom, everyone is hard working, but only until about noon. Each will find time to write friends and tidy the yard. There's no need then to work very hard. Almost every day, a few farmers get together in the town square. While seeds take their time growing, there's spare time for farmers to share. The farmers speak of cabbages and things, nothing usually too profound, and will often play checkers just before the sun goes down. They defend great and impossible thoughts, even having loud discussions, sometimes a lot. There was this one time, last year, it was really about nothing at all. Someone said that nothing was still something, and it almost ended in a brawl. Around here there is only one rule, just one. No disagreements will last longer than the afternoon sun. Farmer Ken Grimm, speaking with Farmer Orville Grun, explained about a big rock on his farm which caused him some harm. Farmer Ken explained, "Every year my farm is hard to plow. That rock will have to go somehow. Sitting right in the middle of the way, it almost broke my plow today. It was there last year and the year before, but it just can't stay there, not anymore." Then Farmer Orville said, "Anything can be moved. No rock is immovable, none." Before Farmer Orville Grun was done, before 1 minute to 1, he had told everyone. Farmer Grun suggested, "Let's all get together to dig up that rock. With picks and buckets, shovels and hammers, we'll give that rock a great big knock. We'll start in the morning and finish before noon. There'll be no more rock very soon, and Farmer Ken's plow will have plenty of room." That's how it began on that first early morning in late spring. No one knew of the trouble that rock might bring. They all stared at the rock for a minute or two, then Farmer Thomas kicked it with his shoe. "That's a pretty big boulder," he said. "It's too big for my tractor to pull out. What do you think, Ned?" "I reckon that's so. Not even using the backhoe," said Farmer Ned Phelps. There were 12 farmers all ready to help, but that rock wasn't ever going to move itself. Farmer Don Doolittle made something perfectly clear. "That rock will keep on doing what it's doing unless we do something to move it from here. There's no use just to stare. Just watch how I get that rock out from there. Everyone else can do what they may, but for now, please, everyone, just stay out of the way." Without saying another word, Farmer Don raised his sledgehammer, the only one he owned. It was his great-granddaddy's hammer that had cracked many troublesome stones. 100 years ago it was famous, very well known in the valley. This was true. The hammer broke many rocks, not after one whack, not two, but usually 3 whacks would do. It came down with the first great whack. "Did you see it move?" asked Farmer Harry Groove. It came down with a second great whack. "What was that? Did you see that spark?" asked Farmer Rory Clark. It came down with a third great whack. Everyone cheered when they heard the loud crack, but there wasn't a mark at all on the rock. How could that be with such a great knock? They could all tell from a strange look on the face of Farmer Doolittle. It was his hammer that had cracked right up the middle. His eyes swelled up with tears and his head was bent low. As he walked away, everyone was silent and all just let him go. Farmer Doolittle had tried to break it his way. It was probably now for the best if he didn't care to stay. Everyone fell quiet when they heard the bumblebee's buzz. It was the oddest bee there ever was. Farmer Ned exclaimed, "Oh no, not again!" There were lots of good reasons for him to complain. That bee would not leave him alone. It all started 3 days ago when Farmer Ned was practicing his trombone. Farmer Ned is in our town band. He has to practice even if the birds and bees don't understand. Maybe the bumblebee liked what it heard, or maybe not. Either way, it won't stay away. It's been bothering Farmer Ned quite a lot. Farmer Ned was stung last year, right on the ear, and it swelled up something really severe. So now he just runs away whenever any bee comes near. It flew right at Farmer Ned, then buzzed around his head. Farmer Ned started to run as fast as he can. He moved so swiftly for such a big man. The bee stayed with him, following close behind. We all heard Farmer Ned when he whimpered and whined. That pesky bee kept after him, close behind still. He just kept running up over the distant hill. Farmer Thomas and Farmer Rory followed closely after Ned to see if they could give him a hand. In spite of everything, they're all in the same band. Farmer Bill thought it's best to do some sound thinking before his digging in the ground. He has found from this sound thinking and from other rocks just lying around that the immovable rock might go very deep into the ground. It may even go 100 feet down. Bill measured off the area and hammered in some wooden stakes. He crisscrossed everything with string and said, "There is no mistake." It got difficult to believe a lot of what Bill thought. Sometimes Farmer Bill's sound thinking makes no sense at all. Like his blue ribbon piglet he thought would grow to be the biggest of all. Even with sound thinking, it seems to still be shrinking. His idea made little difference and was no more than a fanciful whim. Bill packed up everything and left when no one was trusting in him. Farmer John started grumbling as the day began growing hot. "Has anyone noticed? We still haven't moved any dirt from the rock, not a jot." Mrs. Grimm brought out from the house a tall pitcher of lemonade. "It's from an old family recipe," she said, "passed down from my Aunt Adelaide. Honey makes it sweet, and 4 basil leaves make the taste real homemade." Just then, Farmer Ned appeared and ran past, going the other way. He grabbed a glass of lemonade off the tray and shouted, "Thanks, Mrs. Grimm. You saved my life today." If he knew it had honey, it may have changed his mind. He just kept running with that bee close behind. If the farmers were all digging, there would have been a giant dirt mound. It should have been piled up high and away from the rock by now, but not one farmer had begun digging up the ground. Farmer Orville pondered with Farmer Ken. "How long would it take to dig right through the earth? and where would we be then? Farmer Ken turned to ask Farmer Glen. Farmer Glen was kind of pale and stiff, looking with a wide-eyed glare as if he was really scared. He said, "I can't stand worms, the way they wriggle and squirm." Everyone was silent for a moment or two. Then laughter broke out after he shared this very odd news. Farmer Grim asked, "How can a farmer be afraid of worms? That's just like a doctor being afraid of germs. Bumblebees, this I understand, just like with Farmer Ned. Just one sting from a big bumblebee may even make him dead. Worms don't sting and they don't bite. They only wiggle and bend. Worms can't hurt you, and earthworms are every farmer's best friend." "What if they crawl up the back of your clothes, then inside your ears or your nose?" asked Farmer Glen. "Maybe they can spring like snakes to poke you in the eyes. To trust any worms is very unwise." What Farmer Glen said really sounded silly, but he was very afraid. They all let him go home after finishing his glass of lemonade. "Hold on, everyone! Why don't we blast the rock instead?" excitedly asked Farmer Ben. "Don't start that up, my friend. The last time you almost killed us all," exclaimed Farmer Ken. "Not just that, you also blew up my boat. We'll never go fishing together again. Blowing them up just wasn't right, even when those fish don't bite. No way we go near any dynamite. You blew up the whole lake. Blowing this up is a risk we can't take. This rock is right in the middle of my farm, and I want to keep safe both my family house and barn." Farmer John didn't say a word. He looked stiff, like a board, and on the top of his head sat a bird. His shovel was stuck in the dirt. When he took his first scoop, it just hurt. No one noticed how long he stood that way. Without our help, it could be the whole day and maybe even all night. It's happened before where every muscle gets tense and tight. That "help me please" look on his face told us something just wasn't quite right. It usually starts with a crick in his neck, and for days after that he's a wreck. His back aches, his hips lock, and it's pretty much what you'd expect. Farmer Ben and Farmer Harry had to take him home to his bed. His face was filled with dread when they almost dropped him on his head. Farmer Fred frowned at the rock and looked overcome. He supposed, "I knew the rock would be tough for us 12 to get done. It's much too much work for only us 3. Farmer Orville would simply agree. There was little, if any, doubt. It was late afternoon, the sun will soon set, and the hungry mosquitoes will start coming out. There was no time left on the clock for digging up the rock. Farmer Grim then said to Farmers Orville and Fred, "It's probably best you head home instead." In the end, sitting alone on the rock, there was still Farmer Ken Grim, with his elbows on his knees and his hands on his chin. As the moon came up at end of day, Farmer Ned ran past again, going back the other way. The rock was unharmed in the ground and still there, but from that day on, Farmer Ken didn't care. People, while passing by the farm, will slow down to gawk. Some think the story is just all a big crock. Eventually, it became known as the Grim Rock.